Welcome back. And I didn't really know how to start this video. I wasn't even sure if it was really needed from me because I have such a small platform. But thinking about it more and just really pondering on what is the importance of having people who are just open and willing to have conversations with everybody and really giving people a chance to speak their mind and actually give them like a full opportunity to express their views and give them an opportunity to do it in a time frame that's not so crunched. And that's why I love Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has exposed me to so many different people that I thought that I hated and I thought I despised their views because I was always given a little soundbite of what they talked about or what their ideals were. And you always get the worst version of these people, right? Like where they tell you, these people are pro guns and they want little kids to be shot at schools, or these people are against transgenders, or they're against abortion. And when you let them speak, you might not agree with their conclusions they come up with, but at the end of the day, you get a chance to understand where they're coming from. These are not evil people. These are people with different life experiences and different views than your own. So that doesn't mean they're wrong per se or they're right. They just have different views than you. And that's why I enjoy Joe Rogan's podcast so much, because I used to be really skeptical of a lot of people that are Republicans. I used to have a really skewed view of what their ideals were. And same thing with the far left, like people like Jimmy Dore have really exposed my thinking to Medicare for all, higher minimum wages. Are these beneficial things? Are these negative things? Bernie Sanders, Richard Wolf, all these different people that I've either seen from Joe Rogan or uh, learned from his guests, and kind of going down a rabbit hole and finding other people that have the same ideals. You start learning different things about like socialism, communism, utilitarianism, authoritarianism, all these different things I never would have learned because in school they teach these things, but they teach them in a way it's like so cookie cutter. You don't really understand like in depth, like you don't understand the pros and the cons the same way that if you hear people who are professionals and they really believe these things, they're able to express them like in the best light, right? And I think that's what's so beneficial with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan doesn't always take certain guests and then just give them a platform to spew hatred. He'll challenge them a lot of times. I remember one of the best podcast for me was when Candace Owens came on there and Joe Rogan started pushing her like, why don't you believe in climate change? And why don't you believe in certain other things? It seemed like she was just towing a party line. Like a lot of these thoughts like weren't her own, that she hadn't really thought it through. And so when you hear Joe Rogan challenge her on live on television, if it would have been a 5 second clip, she probably could have got away with it. But because it's so long, it's hard to bullshit for 3 hours. It's hard to bullshit for 2 hours. So Joe Rogan definitely gives you um like that rope to hang yourself. So if you haven't thought out your ideals properly, or if you haven't thought out your values and you're just spouting some party line stuff, it's definitely going to be exposed. And because he's going to ask questions and he's going to have Jamie right there constantly fact checking. Now, I understand with the whole like COVID misinformation and everybody being angry about Dr. Malone and um, the other doctor who went on there. But at the end of the day, though, they're just offering their views that might necessarily be right. You know what I mean? And then he has Sanjay Gupta on right there, and he looked foolish also. So, I mean, we got to have all sides speak. And I think Joe Rogan has been the perfect platform for that. He's had people that I never, like Jordan Peterson. I never would have found Jordan Peterson had I not listened to his podcast. I never would have found Jimmy Dore, Crystal Ball and Sagar from Breaking Points, Kyle Kalinske. He's had so many guests on. Michael Malice, Libertarian Views, Dave Smith. He's had so many different guests on that have really exposed me to just different ways of thinking. And then you hear these ideas and they kind of plant seeds in your mind. So what I think is so crazy is that the people who are willing to forgive people who went to prison, people like me, people who have made mistakes in their life that are not perfect, people that are willing to give me a second chance, they want to chastise and ostracize Joe Rogan for making, you know, crude comments or just really just talking with friends on the internet, and they want to cancel him and say he should be gone from the internet forever, which I think is nuts because in the grand scheme of things, people commit crimes, actually hurt people. People say words. I mean, your feelings may be hurt to a certain extent, but that's not something that you can control. You know what I mean? How someone else feels about your words. Now, the whole Joe Rogan saying the N word a whole bunch of times, I think that is nuts. I mean, but the thing is, you gotta look at the context. So if someone just says the word, does that make it wrong per se? I don't think so. Because if you look at that same standard, then Leonardo DiCaprio and Django should be canceled too because he said the word a whole bunch of times. But oh, look, there's a context. Same thing with Joe Rogan. They didn't show one clip where Joe Rogan was calling some of the N word as a slur. Now, I'm gonna be honest, that the Planet of the Apes story was nuts. That shit was nuts. But then again, who hasn't said anything that's been off collared, wasn't perfectly thought out? I mean, if you boys were around Xbox Live 360 days, I've never heard the N word said so many times in my life, and a lot of y'all are lucky that that shit was not documented because a lot of y'all be canceled. Probably some senators, some congressmen, some local business leaders right now have been guilty of some of the same things that they want to cancel Joe Rogan for because there's no evidence. So I think that we need to give each other a little bit more mercy, especially for people that are actually trying to make a change and actively doing things that are beneficial for the community. You may not like everything that goes on in the Joe Rogan podcast, but at least you can see that he's actually curious. He's giving people platforms to speak their mind and giving them room to express it, like showing their things in the best light. When you have MSNBC or CNN, there's such small time constraints. You have a 5 minute segment and you may have four people arguing. How can anybody really express how they feel or their ideas with that short amount of time? I don't think you adequately can. So that's why Joe Rogan's so important. That's why I think podcasts are so important because it gives people a chance to talk back and forth, have a conversation, let it be natural, and just put your ideas in the best light. And I think that's what's so important about Joe Rogan. And I mean, just having a conversation, period. I've talked to friends, coworkers. I try to open up more often. I want to see why you think the way you do. And I think Joe Rogan does that on the biggest platform in the best way. So um, if we want to have a more united America, if you want to see each other more as people other than like tribes and um, different coalitions that hate each other, you have to let people speak. And every time they speak, it may not be things you want to hear, but it's not beneficial to shut them down because if you shut them down, all you're going to do is just have more balkanization. You're going to have more people drawing their party lines and refusing to speak to each other if you won't let them speak with the full breath, right? So that's just my thoughts. I'm not a very big YouTuber, but I think it's important for us to speak up because at the end of the day, if let them cancel Joe Rogan, there's not many bastions left outside of him that can really speak the truth. Because I mean, if they can cancel him, then who can't they cancel? I think everybody's fair game at that point. So if you like the commentary, if you like the my synopsis of the situation, please like and subscribe. I have more content like this. I have more content about the trades and just finding ways to better our lives by talking to each other and just trying to bridge that divide between all of us. Thank you guys.